big day today. We're doing the pilot blend of 3 writings. So behind me here are the 4 casks that we've selected, and also is our head distiller, Liam.
Hello.
So what we're going to be doing is drawing some samples from these and just tasting and testing late last year. When was it? When
Yeah,
we
it was
had
towards
Ron?
the back end of last year, yeah.
Back in last year, we went through all of our cask inventory that was of age with Ron Welsh, who's our master blender, who's helping us pull all this together. And these 4 were picked, right, Liam, in terms of the casks. Now, can you talk us through a little bit about that process of what were we doing there in terms of the cask? Because hopefully everyone knows that every single cask is different, right?
Yeah.
But there we get some similarities of what they're doing. But what did we get here in these 4 that we're trying to then bring through as that first release blend?
Yeah, so firstly, the first stage we had to do with Ron when he came down was we had to just almost review our whole cask range. So it's almost like a review of everything that you've got maturing. And in that process, we got to see what's doing really well, what's ahead of maturation curve, and what's maybe not quite there yet. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just they need a little bit longer in cask. And then what we did was, with the first release in mind, we handpicked it was about 10 to 12 casks that we think were performing ahead of what you would class as the maturation curve. And then from them, we took samples of all them. We started blending them together. We started picking certain ones, putting them together, seeing how it was. And then you'd think you'd put the best casks all together, but that's not the case, because sometimes you get some conflicting flavours coming through or aromas coming through, or it's maybe overly complex and it doesn't actually balance out quite well. So then you go back to the drawing board, you pick a couple that you like, and then you start adding in other ones. It's almost like a bit of a mix and match and see which works. And then we came down to these 4 casks in front of us. So what we're trying to do here with 3 ridings is we're trying to elevate the new make spirit we've already got. We're not trying to mask it by putting a really overpowering cask on top of it. So and losing all the wonderful flavours we get from that start out with Feakstons at the brewery, where they get lots of great flavours, a lot of chocolate flavours coming through, bananas, all sorts like that, and they get developed through the distillation process. So our new makes really high, really good, strong banana flavours. It's got dark chocolate flavours in there. There's pear drops, aromas, and pear flavours. Tropical fruits and orchard fruits are some of the main flavours that come through our new make.
I think that's one thing that we sort of is different from, and I've been tasting a couple of the other distilleries in terms of the approach, is really emphasising that we've taken this view of flavour and taste at every single step. So with the beer that we developed with Feakstons, there was obviously all the malts that were chosen to deliver that porter style beer that tastes great.
Yeah.
Then we've got, when we're pulling off the new make, even our low wines, I always think that they sort of still already starting to develop a lot of that character, Maltesers and that kind of chocolatey, malty
that
kind
biscuit,
of,
that malted biscuit notes.
And then each of those steps, we're just trying to get it through. And then we get to, obviously running it through the spirit still, you guys make all the cuts. And then it ends up in these, right? And these, everything we did early days was all first fill bourbons, right?
It was, first fill Heaven Hill bourbons.
And why do we do first fill bourbons?
First fill bourbons, especially for a younger, whiskey that we're going to be releasing, will give a lot more, give a lot more flavour into the new make spirit, so it'll help the maturation come on quicker. There's depending on who you speak to, it'll depend on what sort of casks they prefer to use. Quite often in the bigger distilleries that are maturing for a longer period of time, they might use second fills because then the maturation's not too quick and it can sit there sort of working away nice and slowly in the background. Whereas for us, we wanted to get as much of the flavour to enhance the new make spirit as we can in a relatively short period of time.
But these are, Heaven Hill, I can't, because it was 4 years ago that we made the decision we were going to go with these, and obviously Jamie was involved in that decision. These are medium char, medium toast, or something like that, aren't they? And that's so that they're not packing too much flavour in. What flavour characteristics do we get though from these barrels in terms of what do they bring to our spirit? Where you've described we've got already that sort of base of chocolates and fruits and all that kind of lovely flavours are there. What do these bring into that mix?
So in the new make, we've also got a tiny little bit of vanilla in there. So what bourbon barrels predominantly do is add vanilla flavors. There's vanillins in there, so it like really like lifts the vanilla flavors and makes it more round and more smooth and a more balanced flavor. You're also going to get people say caramel, toffee, those kind of flavors coming through there. Yeah. Also, what I've noticed in the maturation process is the malty notes that you're talking about from the low wines, and obviously in the distiller's beer we get, they start to like develop further and become like nicer. They're like a really nice malted biscuit notes and stuff like that. So what the cask's actually doing is it's giving a little bit more flavors, but it's also helping the flavors that are already in there develop further without overpowering them. Yeah,
and I think one of the things, when we spend some time in the distillery, we'll spend a bit more time focusing on it, is I think one of the big differences about three writings is this, I mentioned earlier, this focus on the flavour, but even at that very beginning point in terms of the flavour characteristics that you're already picking up at each of those stages, it's like we're complementing and adding and complementing and adding. Yeah. Rather than a lot of distilleries, I think, and you and I have talked about this, they go for as productive as possible a process through the wash. So they want maximum sugar conversion. They're not really focused on flavour, but they want sort of cleanliness. Yeah. But as much alcohol as possible for the lowest possible cost is a big feature. We're on the other end of the spectrum, really, aren't we? We're almost like the obsession of flavour. But we've nailed on with the beer that we developed with Theakston because it's giving us, such a beautiful base spirit.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. There's, I think efficiency is a big, like in a lot of the big distilleries, efficiency comes first probably. Yeah. Whereas we've got the luxury of like we can play around and be flavour dominant. The big thing across all of our every process, there's the flavour. There's a pack full of flavour in every process, but you still get the smooth spirits and stuff like that. So that's the one thing that's amazing with our new making, which goes on to become our whiskey, is how smooth it is, but still full of flavour it is. Usually smooth means you've stripped out flavour, whereas ours, we've been able to keep it in because there's so much through every stage of the process.
Cool. Well, let's get on with getting some whiskey out and tasting some stuff, shall we?
Yep. So I'm just going to take the bungs out and then get a sample from every cask. Apologies about the noise. If I open them, Chris, do you want to nose them from the cask? Because that's quite a nice experience, and not everybody gets to do this.
Have you got the notes on each of these? Or?
Yeah, so the thing about bourbon, well, the thing about any whiskey production or any production in general is you want consistency across the board. So even though every cask may be slightly different, you're actually wanting the similar notes across the board. So again, vanillas, aromas of vanilla is predominant.
First one's got the most interesting.
Yeah, so and there will be slight differences. Yeah. So what you're trying to do is, so for every blend you make and every sort of whiskey you produce, you're wanting to sort of be able to replicate that in the future. So even though each one of these casks will be slightly different, obviously they were filled on slightly different days as well, and they'll have therefore had different new make spirits in it. You want overall the consistency across the board. So if you told me in 5 years' time, let's make this again, we should be close to being able to make it without too much messing around. So as much as, yes, every cask can be slightly different, as if every cask was totally different, it would be an absolute nightmare for anybody who's trying to blend and make the same product over and over again.
Yeah, I was just looking at the numbers. So these are all different distillations, really, aren't they?
Yeah, there will be, yeah. So 15 and 20, if my memory serves me correct, are from the same new make batch, but then 29 and 36 are from different.
Right.
And so we don't try and do anything different with our cask filling strength, so we're at 63%, which is pretty much the norm. You do get variance in your cask filling strength, maybe slightly stronger, maybe slightly weaker, but we just stick in a nice solid 63%.
And that's to do with the rate the which it progresses with the wood, right?
A little bit, and a
level
little
of
bit.
alcohol?
The higher ABV you get, the more loss you're going to naturally get because you've got more alcohol in there, so alcohol will evaporate and you'll end up with more loss. So, but likewise, if you're too low, you'll end up with less loss, but you'll get less flavour pulling through from the casks.
Yeah.
So it's a fine balance to try and get it right. 63 has been around about 63 has been done for a long, long time. So we're not trying to change anything in that regard.
Yeah. It's a great pair of shorts on display there.
Thank you. It's the nice short weather month now. Not seeming shorts until October, I would imagine.
The short week.
There you go. Try not to stand in front of the camera.
But yeah, getting some good colour on these.
The colour's great, isn't it? Yeah. So it's worth saying we're also not going to add any colour to our first release. It's all going to be natural colouring.
Yeah, but we would never add colour to anything.
No.
It's just so against the philosophy of what we do, isn't it?
Yeah. I also think you can be hiding quite a lot in the colour.
Yeah.
I think so. I'd rather be more transparent.
Got a lot of char.
A lot of char in that one, yeah. You can feel the char in the bottom of the casks when you're trying to sample it, because obviously we've had these in casks for quite a while now. The char's really settled to the bottom.
Yeah. You don't really move them around at all, do you?
No, you don't need to. No. So they effectively will. So with us being a new distillery, we sample more regularly. However, with us having the confidence now in the process and how bourbon barrels are working with our new make spirit, we don't feel the need to sort of sample every 6 months. So these effectively will be filled and sit in storage, as you can see behind us, for, I don't know, 3-4 years if you've not got any real plan for using that liquid for anything.
Yeah.
You may sample periodically just to check that everything's going okay, but when you've got the confidence in what's happening, you don't necessarily need to.
This one's going to take a while to settle.
Yeah. But the colours, if you look at them, 20 is probably got a slightly deeper colour than the others, ever so slightly. They're all pretty consistent. 15 looks a little bit darker because of the char.
Yeah, that one's got a good colour, 36.
Yeah. So there wasn't anything massively so when you're talking about what does each cask bring, there wasn't anything like this brought more of X and this brought more of Y. They're all very relatively similar. There was a couple, 15 and 20 in particular, that when we did the first tasting and sampling of our casks with Ron, they were like standout casks. We earmarked them as, keep an eye on these could be great. In fact, one of the notes was these could be single cask releases. That's how good the liquid was. But obviously, we've been the first release. It needs to be special, so we're bringing some of that in with some of a really good performing casks. But so you do get variances, but it's not necessarily like one taste totally different to the other. It's just how balanced they are, really.
Yeah.
I think that's a big key thing for me when, I suppose, with any spirit producing and anything like that, but definitely with whiskey, if you can get the balance right, then the product will be so much better than if you're just going for necessarily the best flavour casks. Yeah. It's the same for the ABV as well. So in the blending process of this, we ummed and ahed about going cask strength. One of the reasons why we haven't gone cask strength is because the balance wasn't quite there, and it just was overpowering with the alcohol. So what we did was, but we didn't want to sort of shortchange anybody. We wanted to still have it as a high strength whiskey. So we started going down the numbers. So we started at about 60, went down to 59, 58, 57%, just to see where the sort of flavours started to, I don't know, become like a complete product. And then 58 was where we were. So then we took the ABV in like 0.1 down and up. So we went up to 58.3. Terrible. So we took it to 58, and then from there we went up and down 0.1. So we went up to 58.3 and 57.7. We hit at 57.9% ABV, and that's just where it was a bit of a eureka moment when me, Sophie, and Ron were tasting it, and it was all really, really good. And then we had it, and we're like, whoa, just stop, that's amazing. So we stopped, we sat down, we were each drinking a sample of this blend that we did, and then we went, right, let's stick a cube of ice in there, let's see what that does, and left the ice for a couple of minutes, and we were like, wow, that's incredible. So that's where we were, and that was the process. So there was a lot of background work to do it to see where the casks were, but once you got into narrowing it down, and you knew what the casks were, the actual process of making it into the finished product was quite good fun.
Yeah, I know. When I came in and you guys had done that blend and you were all sitting there with your glasses, and all had smug looks on your face.
Yeah, it was quite a nice moment, I must admit.
Right, what do we do now?
So we are going to sort of cheat this a little bit because we already know what the blend is. And effectively the blend of what the batch is going to be, it's going to be even measures from each cask.
Yep.
So what we'll do now is I will ABV each one, so we know what ABV it is. And then I know how much water I need to add at the end, and then we'll just put equal measures into a glass and then add the water down. So if we'll taste them individually first as well. So if we put 20 ml into each glass, and then we can nose it and taste it and replicate the blending process, I suppose.
Cool.
So this is where we look all fancy with our measured pipette. This will put 10 mils. This will measure 10 mil at a time, but you can go as small as 1 mil. So this is how accurate you can be when you're blending. And hopefully by the end of it, we come away with a pilot blend.
Hopefully. So the pilot blend, what we're going to be using that for, so we're going to do, because we've only got 1,000 bottles of the first release, we're doing, I think 25 litres is what we've agreed, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Of a pilot blend, which is essentially the first release blend, which we're then going to use for some samples for people, putting in some awards, things like that. So we've actually got something, but we're also going to put a bottle of the pilot blend on each table at the dinner on the 23rd of October. So everyone who comes to that dinner is going to get to taste the first release liquid, but technically not one of the 1,000 bottles,
yeah,
but essentially the same liquid.
So for me, during the process, the blending process was probably the most rewarding part for it, because the distilling side of it, like, yeah, it's great. We knew the new make was good. When Ron came in, it was kind of like, it was nerve-wracking because it was like a teacher marking your homework. So he's got 30 plus years of experience in the industry, and him coming in and tasting and nosing and sampling all of our spirit was kind of a bit daunting, but very quickly he sort of agreed with the level of the quality of our product, and then it was actually starting to put it together and make it into a finished product that we know will go forward to being our first release. Yeah. And because when they're in these casks, it's all great and the effort's gone into it and it's brilliant, but effectively that's just an ingredient right now. It's a very nice ingredient, but it's just an ingredient. But when you start putting it together like this, it actually goes from an ingredient to a finished product, which is probably has been my favourite part of the journey. Yeah. The beauty of it having a higher ABV as well, it means that the customer can decide what ABV, how they want to drink it, rather than us specifying it, dropping it down to say 40%, something like that. Then you sort of like, you're telling the customer how you want them to drink it. Whereas with this, it's a high enough ABV that people can try it at high strength, but also can add ice or add water to it, however they see fit. So what can actually happen is the ABV can go up, which is unusual. So usually the ABV goes down, but when you can get the concentration of the water, almost like the evaporation of the water off the top, rather than necessarily the ABV and the amount goes down. Well,
we had that in those samples we got sent from that New York distiller, if you remember. Yeah. And I was like, why are these ABVs
so you don't see it very often.
Because I think it's the factor of temperature, humidity, and it obviously creates that scenario.
This is just so when we blend, we can get down to the 57.9. So does any of them stand out yet, or quite consistent?
This one's presenting nicely on the nose.
It is quite amazing how leaving something for 3 or 4 minutes can really allow the aromas to develop. There's a real nice sweetness to that one.
Instant.
Pear drops flying through that one, I think. I get like a real nice pear drops to that one. So an aroma, they're all incredibly consistent. There's just a couple of them a little bit elevated from the other ones, but the baseline is all absolutely spot on where we want them to be.
Yep.
So the process now would be, if we want to try them, we can. But what you do is we'll take equal parts and blend that together, and then a little bit of water, get it down to 57.9%, and then we'll try that as a finished product. So while you're doing that, I'll do this. I think even tasting them before adding water, you can still see all the flavours coming through, and they're all very consistent, but it does need to be brought down that little bit.
I think out of those, that is probably
29
was producing the most interesting flavours. That last one, maybe just the ABV is just at 63.5. It's
yeah,
bit punchy.
That's the thing as well. Like when people want cask strength, and I don't know, it's not necessarily representing the spirit in its best way, because you wouldn't normally drink any spirit at that high an ABV. You wouldn't even drink really in the 50s. You see every so often you see like a gin or something like that in the 50s, and you wouldn't choose to drink it like that.
No.
So
the ideal is probably sub 40, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see how everybody drinks their whiskey, and obviously nobody really measures it out, or there'll be a couple of drops of water or this or that, but what ABV they actually get to when they drink it. I wouldn't drink it. I would definitely add ice. I prefer adding ice than water, because I feel like the journey of the ice melting sort of gives you different ABV, so it gives you like almost like a bit more of a journey through your spirit, and you get to see how it opens up. Smell the aromas of that now. I mean, instantly just adding the water, you start to
get all the fruits. Yeah.
They're already coming out.
And the water. Talk about the. So we use RO, which is essentially.
It's
purified water that's come from our
borehole, yeah.
260 metres underground underneath the distillery. But the water, so we get two sort of impacts. We get the water that Theakston use in their beer, which is well regarded as like really, really good. And then we have our water. But what ultimately this sort of, everyone talks about the water in a whiskey. What is it that, from your perspective, is it a myth?
Okay, so I might upset a few people here. Yeah, I think I think water is more of a story than it is.
Just banana straight away.
Yeah. So for me, water, like if you've got a story, then you tell it. So if it comes from a beautiful, I don't know, like a tarn up in the fells, or if it comes from like a beautiful water source, then tell that story. But ultimately, like I would be very, very surprised if anybody is using water that hasn't gone through some sort of treatment, so to try and purify it and clean it up and make it it's got to be consumable for humans. So there's nobody out there that's going to be using something that hasn't passed through some filtration or something to clean it up anyway. So look, if you've got a story, you tell it. But for me, you look at it as an ingredient. You want it clean. So ours is RO water, so it's 99.9% pure and clear. So it's not imparting any flavours into the whiskey. All the flavours come from what we're doing, but what it does is it allows it to open up. And so for me, I think water's one of those myths. But again, I understand why people do tell the story. I mean, that just opened up incredibly, and that's 3 minutes ago I added water to it.
Yeah.
So if you let that sit for another 10 minutes or so, or when it's because what will happen is these will all get blended together quite shortly before the bottling time. Water will be added, and then it'll rest for a few days before we even bottle it. Probably rest for a week before we even bottle it. So all of those flavours and aromas are going to have time to settle.
So we will run it through a filter.
Yep.
Won't we? Just to take the char and the particulates out.
Yeah.
But nothing else, right?
No. So, I mean, a lot of the char will come out in the first. So when we blend it together, a lot of char will stay in the mixing vessel that we use. But there will be some small amounts go through. So we will have to filter them out, but we're not gonna. It's not going to be heavy filtered or anything like that.
Oh, it's just fantastic.
That aroma of banana just punches you in the face. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, it's all those flavours, as we were saying earlier, the stuff that you get all the way from the very beginning of the malts and the beer that comes from Theakston.
I mean, that's beautiful.
Just comes through.
Yeah. I absolutely love the aromas we get through it, but the flavour backs it up. It's sweet, it's smooth, it's clean. You would never, if that was a blind tasting, you would never think that's around about 58%.
No.
Usually that high ABV it would blow your head off. Whereas you could just sip away at it for hours on end. It's really, really nice.
Yeah.
I love the fact that we've got the tropical flavors and everything from the distillate as well. Like, it just gives we've got layers of flavor coming through. But also, I mean, I've had one sip and the finish is still there, the flavor's still there. So it's just amazing how it lasts for so long. It's a really, really, really long finish and a very enjoyable finish. It's wonderful watching the oils come out when you add a little bit of water as well. That's one of my favourite parts, when you've got high ABV. Add a little bit of water and just watch the swirls of oils coming out. Fantastic for marketing people.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
Yeah, I think we've done well.